Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 85 for season 2025, and it is AFLW Grand Final week. We're finally at the final game of the season. We've gone all the way through the AFL season. Now, all the way through to the AFLW, we've got one game left, and that is what this episode is basically all about. So, if you're new around here, we're a football podcast. We do 1 to 2 episodes every week, depending on the time of the season. This will be the second episode this week. If you haven't already, go back and check out the one we dropped a couple days ago. Wrapping up the AFL men's draft. Obviously, this episode is fully on AFLW. Don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button, depending what platform you're on, to not miss out on any episodes. We've only got a couple left for season 2025. We got this one. Next week, we'll be doing a grand final wrap-up video, as well as AFLW Awards. The All Aussie Rules AFLW Awards will be next week. And then after that, there's not much left to do for 2025, and it's going to be fully moving towards 2026 content as soon as the new year ticks over. So don't miss a thing. Hit that follow or subscribe button. Don't forget to check out all the social medias as well. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Go check it out. The plan for this episode is we're going to kick off looking at the AFLW Awards night. We'll quickly run through all the winners from that night. That was a couple nights ago at time of recording. So we'll check that out. Then we'll jump into the wrap-up of both prelim finals from last weekend. There was 2 games, so we'll go through both of them, and then we'll wrap up this episode having a look at a preview for the grand final. Can the Lions upset the Kangaroos? We're going to go through all of that today, so make sure you stick around. Plenty to get through, so let's jump straight into it. There's no point on beating around the bush. We may as well jump into it, and we'll start with the AFLW Awards, and it kicked off with the All-Australian team. This is it. You can see it on your screen. Chaplin, Dunn in the back line. Halfbacks, Watson, Cordner, McCormick. Wings and centre, Dana Finn, Tyler Hanks, and Ella Roberts. Half forwards, Kate Hoare, Talia Randall, and Owen McDonough. Courtney Hodder, Indy Tahu as the forward line. Ruck, Memstrom, and Garner and Riddell as Ruck, Rover, and Rover. And then the interchange, Georgie Prasparkas, Gabrielle Newton, Matilda Schultz, Blathin Berg, and Neve McLaughlin are your All-Australian team for this year. I quite agree with most of the team, in all honesty. I think most of the backline there is pretty accurate. The bench is probably my biggest concern, but I definitely had McCormick in there. I definitely had Harriet Cordner. They were the best 2 key defenders in the competition this year. Serene Watson absolutely had a career best year, was fantastic. Jennifer Dunn's always been good. Chaplin was also good. Dana Finn was by far the best wing in the competition this season, so absolutely deserves a spot in the team as the only legitimate wing player that was selected. The other midfielders, Tyler Hanks had a career best year. Ella Roberts absolutely deserves a spot. Was it probably second or third highest rated player throughout the season? I think technically at the moment going into the grand final is the second best, but Ash Riddell could jump back above her this week. We'll see what happens with that. Half forward line, Kate Hall was fantastic all season. Absolutely deserves a spot. Talia Randall was probably the biggest, most likely in that front 5 to not be selected, in my opinion. The other 5, I think, are all absolute guarantees in the team. McDonough was super most of the year. Tahu was the leading goal kicker, absolutely had to be in there. And Courtney Hodder had a career best year by miles. I think jumped from last year in our ranking system was ranked about 170th off the top of my head. And this year was top 30 or 40. So maybe even higher than that. I can't remember exactly where she is, but very, very highly rated. So absolutely good. Mim Strom, one of two highly rated rucks this year. The other one was Lucy Wales. Lucy Wales missed the last 3 games, which probably hurt her chances. So going by the fact that Wales missed those games, I did have Mim Strom as my ruckman in the All-Australian team. So I'm quite happy with that. Lucy Wales unlucky. Another game or two and definitely would have been in this team, in my opinion. Jazz Garner absolutely had to be in this team. Number 1 player in the competition 2 years in a row in terms of rating, and had a fantastic year. 8-time All-Australian, 8 years in a row. Absolute beast. Ash Riddell absolutely deserved it. The amount of disposals this year, averaged like 37 odd disposals per game throughout the home and away season, was absolutely huge. Absolutely had to be in this team. Your bench, Georgie Prasparkas, I agree with. Newton is, yeah, probably, maybe. Matilda Schultz, I personally wouldn't have had her in the best team of the year. Was the 3rd highest rated ruckman, but was a fair way off the ratings of both Mim Strom and Lucy Wales. Take nothing away from Matilda. Absolute gun. Clearly 3rd best ruckman. It's only, her 3rd season. Absolutely will be a star, but I wouldn't have had her in this team personally. Blathin Bogue absolutely was in my team. Had a fantastic season. Neve McLaughlin, I personally wouldn't have had in there either. I thought there was a couple other halfbacks that rated higher throughout the year, one being Tani White. Zippy Fish would have been close. And, yeah, even Erica O'Shea potentially could have been in there from the Kangaroos as well. So, couple on the bench that I had an issue with, but outside of that, most of the team I'm pretty happy with. The next award to look at was Mark and Goal of the Year. Goal of the Year was actually both of these were against Collingwood. 2 different games, obviously, but both were against Collingwood. Sydney's Montana Ham got Goal of the Year. Was probably the best of the goals. Could have gone to Chloe Malloy for that incredible goal from the boundary, but yeah, I don't know. They all were pretty very good, decent goals. So I wouldn't have been too disappointed with any of those 3 winning. Is my opinion. And then the Mark of the Year went to Sarah Hosking from Richmond for running back with a flight, taking a courageous mark. It was an unbelievable mark. And I personally think was clearly the best of the 3 that were on, that went to the final. So, not too disappointed with either of those results. Rising Star, this was the biggest walk in the park you will ever see. There was absolutely zero doubt in my mind, or most people's minds, I think, on who would win this. And went to Zippy Fish from Sydney. Absolutely was the standout young player in the competition this year. Good thing on that list there is pretty much first-year players. That's what you love to see in the Rising Star. A lot of the time in both men's and women's competition, second-year players do really well that didn't play enough games in their first season. We got all first-year players here. Zippy Fish was absolutely outstanding. As we said, halfback, flanker, wing, will absolutely play midfield time in future years. Not exactly sure if that will be 2026 or a bit further on, but absolutely will get midfield time and will absolutely dominate when does. Poppy Schultz was fantastic. Clearly a standout performer throughout most of the year, was very consistent throughout the whole year. Played a variety of roles, went forward, kicked goals, kicked important goals. So watch for Poppy in the future. Could be an absolute star. The Sia Painter started the season fantastically and continued it throughout most of the year really well. Havana Harris started the season absolutely on fire. Maybe didn't hold as good throughout the rest of the season as some of these other players, but the potential of Havana is very, very high. And Sophie McKay absolutely dominated late season. Finals performer was absolutely fantastic. Snuck into the votes due to that end of season form. And overall, I think probably rightly about the 5th or 6th best in the Rising Star voting this season. And then we've got the BNF, the winner. Finally, Ash Riddell got the win. I don't know why her and Jazz Garner don't get votes. I know there's a lot of votes there for Ash Riddell this year, but could have got a lot more in my opinion. 2 games had 40 plus disposals and didn't get a vote in either of them. Was clearly in the top 2 players. I think in our voting system we had Ash Riddell in the top 2 players in every game, maybe. Absolutely should have been probably a bigger win, but I am very, very glad that Ash Riddell held on and won this one. I was a little bit concerned with a few rounds to go when it was tight, but those last 4 rounds, thank goodness, she went 3-3, 2-3 to end up on 23 and get that win. So well done. Shout out to the rest of the leaderboard as well. They all had really good seasons, but Ash Riddell was just an absolute freak. Georgie Prasparkas, absolutely fantastic. Tyler Hanks was a little bit of a surprise for me. I had Kate Hoare getting a bit more and Tyler Hanks getting a bit less, but well done to Tyler Hanks. Career best year. Ella Roberts was fantastic. Missed a couple games. No, just 1 game, but late in the season. Really good season from her, and as West Coast continue to develop and maybe win a few more games, will continue to be a key vote getter. Laura Gardner was fantastic this year. Jazz Garner missed that game and a half in round 3 and 4, which probably cost a chance at her winning it this year. Couple votes less than what I had Garner on, but still a fantastic season. Kiara Bowers, fantastic. Hard tackling player. Georgia Nanscarwin had a good year, 13 votes there. Matilda Schultz on 12. Abby Dowrick on 11, who polls well most years. Kate Hoare, fantastic. Didn't get as many votes as I thought. I think I had her on 17. So a little bit off that. Isabel Pritchard, slightly down on what we said as well. And Mim Strong, fantastic with 11 votes. That is your AFL BNF top 10. Other than that, that's pretty much everything from AFLW Awards night. I think overall, pretty much everything went the right way. Couple All Australians that I disagree with, and a couple votes here and there that went, I think, wrong here. But overall, we got the right winner, so I'm very happy with that. Moving on to the games from the weekend, and we kicked off with the undefeated Kangaroos taking on Melbourne. Icon Park Saturday afternoon football. I was at this game and it was an absolute cracker. Kangaroos end up holding on for the 10-point win, 6-10-46 to 5-6-36. It went down to the wire, and it could have been a disaster for the Kangaroos. Early days, it certainly looked that way. The North crowd, home crowd, was a little bit worried throughout most of this first 3 quarters, maybe even the 4th as well. But in the end, the class of the Kangaroos was enough to get them over the line. Cracking game, though. It started off with Melbourne piling on a couple early ones. Pretty much straight away, 2 minutes in, Paxi Paxman got the first goal. Riley Wotherspoon got the second. And then the third goal went to Kate Hoare to give them the 3-goal lead. Halfway through the first quarter, and it was all of a sudden a little bit concerning, but the Kangaroos hit back quickly and they hit back hard. Bogue, Sharon, and then Bogue all kicked goals late in the first quarter. That was all within the space of about 2, 3, 4 minutes, somewhere around about there. It was an absolute turnaround. They got back into the game quickly. They were within a point. Taylor Harris did kick a late first quarter goal to give Melbourne back that little bit of a gap, 7-point lead at quarter time, and it was an absolute cracker at this point. Kangaroos got the first of the second quarter through Ash Riddell. before Kate Hall kicked her second goal late in the second to give Melbourne back the lead, 2-point leaders at half-time. The third quarter is probably where Melbourne threw away their chance at this game. Kangaroos did not score in the third quarter. Melbourne had the scoring end in the third quarter and only managed 4 behinds. So it was 4 behinds to 0. If they had kicked 2 goals 2 in that quarter, all of a sudden they were up by 15 points. Who knows what could have happened? But as it turned out, they're just 6 points up going into the final quarter. And you felt like it probably wasn't enough. And that's how it turned out. The Kangaroos absolutely peppered the goals in the last quarter too. They kicked 2 goals 4. Certainly could have kicked a couple more as well. Bogue kicked her third halfway through the quarter, and then about 2 minutes later, Jazz Garner got a goal from a stoppage, which cleared them out. So Bogue put them in front, and Garner put them out of reach of 1 kick. So that was a huge moment for them. There was still plenty of time on the clock, roughly 8-9 minutes left in the quarter in the game at that point, but the Kangaroos just were too strong late in this game and held on for a very narrow victory. Wasn't convincing, wasn't their best game. In fact, it was their lowest rating game of the season. But they got the job done. They did what they needed to do. And that's pretty much all you can say, really, for them. 276 to 256 disposals in favour of the Kangaroos. So both teams slightly down on their average. Kangaroos quite a fair way down, 40 disposals down on their average. Inside 50s was 40 to 29 in favour of the Kangaroos, so plus 11. What else is there that's interesting that stands out? Disposal efficiency of Melbourne struggled. I think they looked very tired in that last quarter. I think they'd just done a bulk of work to get themselves into a position where they could win it, but they just didn't have the stamina late. And I think that really showed in that last quarter. Clearances 21 to 14 in favour of the Roos. Contested footy and uncontested slightly in favour of Kangaroos. Turnover numbers were too high for Melbourne, 73. That's 5 above their average, 69 for Kangaroos. The mark game was good by Melbourne, especially the contested marks, 14 to 5. And tackle numbers pretty low for both teams, 58 Melbourne, 54 for Kangaroos, well below average for both teams. As we went through the goal kickers, there was 2 multiple goal kickers, Blathen Bogue with 3 and Kate Hoare with 2. Were the only 2 multiple goal scorers. As you can see, the MVP votes are on the screen if you're watching this. If you're not, we'll run through them very shortly. Top 5 players in our rating system for each team get votes every single game throughout the year. Top 5 for the winning team get 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. Top 5 for the losing team get 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. No surprise. I think it's it is. All 3 finals last year and both finals so far that the Kangaroos have played this year. Jazz Garner has been the highest rated player. So 5 finals in a row. Not that surprising. Jazz is the highest rated player in most Kangaroos games. In our rating system, that's just how it is. Absolute gun. Continually does it and did it again here. Gets the 10 votes for being best on in the winning team. Ash Riddell, 8, was fantastic. Kicked a goal, 24 touches, which is well down on her average on the season, but still, those are really big numbers. Elish Sharon, what a comeback game this one was. Obviously got injured midway through the season, missed the whole bunch of games late in the year. Came back for this one and was important early. Was important all game, but only played 56% game time in this match. So spent a fair bit of time on the bench due to probably just workloads. Still had 18 touches, kicked an important goal in that first quarter, 7 tackles, 5 clearances. Was absolutely massive. Showed why the Kangaroos wanted to bring her across from Richmond last year. Absolutely fantastic performance in just 56% game time. Emma Kearney was huge off the half-back line for the Roos, gets 4 votes, and Blathenbogue arguably could have been best on ground. Kicked 3 goals, very important, 9 disposals, and really opened the game up quite well. For the Melbourne Demons, their top 5 rated players, Maeve Chaplin, All-Australian, had 22 touches, was really good with 422 metres gained. Surad Taylor, 13 touches, 8 tackles, was good. Kate Hall was fantastic, as Kate Hall always is. 18 touches, 2 goals. Was absolutely huge. Talia Gillard with 2 votes, had 17 touches, and 1 vote goes to Eliza McNamara, who worked really, really hard throughout this game. 21 touches on the wing, 5 tackles, 1 clearance, 383 metres gained. So the Kangaroos head to a 3rd straight grand final. The Demons put up a massive fight, an absolute gun performance from them in this game. They'll be kicking themselves for losing out to Brisbane in week 1 of the finals. If they had played like this, week 1 of the finals against Brisbane, they probably would have won that game. So they'll be a little bit disappointed with themselves, but at the end of the day, they gave themselves a chance. They played some pretty decent football, and they just fell short. So a good season from them, not quite good enough to go with the team that's the best team that we've seen in the competition to date. In 10 seasons, this is by far the best team. So to take them to 10 points was a really good effort, I think, in Melbourne's side of things. Kangaroos, they got away with it. It wasn't their best performance, but they got through it. They did what they needed to. I'd be very surprised to see Brisbane catch them unawares, as like Melbourne did last week. The other game on the weekend was Saturday Night Football. Brisbane Carlton. It started like a cracker, but Brisbane broke them down eventually. 10-7, 67, 5-2, 32 for Carlton. A really comfortable win in the end. 35-point winners, the Brisbane Lions, but to secure their 3rd straight grand final as well. Both teams going into the grand final for the 3rd year in a row. They're 1-1. It's the decider this year, so we'll stick around and see how that goes. But this game started, first half was really, really close. Dana Finn kicked the only goal of the first quarter. It was 3-point lead to the Blues. Brisbane kicked the first couple of the second quarter through Ruby Spark, and both of them through Ruby Spark. Poppy Schultz got one, who, as we talked about earlier in this episode, has had a fantastic season. Taylor Smith got one for Brisbane, and then Poppy Schultz kicked a second right before half-time to have it to 23-18 in favour of Brisbane at half-time. And you really felt like Brisbane were probably on top, but Carlton were just sticking around. And if they could continue to stick around, who knows what could happen. But the game, straight after halftime, just changed completely. Brisbane took their chances and blew this game out of the water very quickly. They kicked 5 goals in the first 14 minutes of the 3rd quarter to basically put this game to bed. Ruby Spark kicked her 3rd, so had 3 out of Brisbane's first 4 goals in this match. Courtney Hodder then got one. Dakota Davidson kicked one. Ellie Hampson, and then Dakota Davidson kicked her 2nd. So by the 14-minute mark, it was looking pretty dangerous. Sophie McKay did get one for Carlton at the 19-minute mark of the 3rd quarter, but then Brisbane hit back. Late quarter goal for Ellie Hampson again. She managed it the week before down in Melbourne. No, 2 weeks before, down in Melbourne against Melbourne. And did it again. I think that was the 3rd quarter as well. Was it 3rd quarter or halftime? She kicked a goal just before the siren. Did it again here to give them a really comfortable 36-point lead at 3-quarter time. Carlton did manage the first goal of the last quarter through Dana Finn, but then Ruby Spark kicked her 4th and the final goal of the game to give them the 35-point win for the Lions. An absolute walk in the park. Maybe their best game of the season so far. Not Carlton's best by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly Brisbane showed up to play in this game. Certainly that second half was scintillating. I think that overall, throughout most of the game, they were the best team. It was just a matter of could they take their chances. They went from kicking 3 goals 5 in the first half to kicking 7 goals 2 in the second half. So they were much more accurate. They made their chances stick, and they got the reward for that effort. Team rating suggests that they were massively ahead in this one, almost 67 for and 47 against, so 20-point swing, which is about where they've been at recently. Their average over the last 5 weeks is plus 18, I think. So they have been in some absolute splendid form, the Brisbane Lions. So they've made their run at the right time of the season. Is it going to be enough? I'm not completely ruling them out. Their best, I think, we've said for probably the last 6 or 7, maybe even a little bit longer than that, weeks, that Brisbane were the only team we could conceivably say had a chance to take it to the Kangaroos, just based on numbers. And they're showing that they are in good form. So if they are good enough, we will find out on the weekend. Team stats in this one was a domination by Brisbane, plus 80 disposals. Carlton were down on their average by about 30. Meanwhile, Brisbane were up by 30 on theirs. Inside 50s, 50 to 28. 50 inside 50s for the Brisbane Lions is a huge number. No wonder they won this game. Disposal efficiency, 64% for Brisbane. That's over 2% above their average. Meanwhile, Carlton were at 58.1%, which is more than 2% below their average and more than 5% below that of Brisbane. So that is a massive discrepancy in efficiency with the ball. So that is a massive, massive difference right there in this game. Clearances 27 to 21 in favour of Brisbane. Contested, uncontested, all went the way of the Lions. Turnovers also went the way of the Lions. Both teams about their averages in that regard, but still plus 7 turnovers for Carlton, so not great there. Low marking game, tackle count not huge, 62 to 58 in favour of Brisbane. Overall, Brisbane just had the answers. Is basically the long and the short of it. Multiple goal kickers. There was quite a few in this one. For Brisbane, Ruby Spark kicked the 4, and then Ellie Hampson, Dakota Davidson both kicked 2 each. And for Carlton, they had 2 multiple goal scorers. Poppy Schultz and Dana Finn kicked 2 goals each to have 4 out of the Blues' 5 goals. Best players in this one, starting with the winning team, Brisbane Lions. Jade Ellinger got highest rated player, 18 touches in this one, 5 tackles. It's a bit of a surprise that she was highest rated player, but that's what the system said. Ruby Spark gets next, 4 goals, as we said. Her best game of the season so far this year, I think. Maybe best game of the last couple seasons. Was fantastic. Kathy Spark is next with 6 votes, 14 touches for her, 296 metres gained, 11 tackles. Isabel Dawes, 24 touches, 7 tackles. And Courtney Hodder, who's had a fantastic season, had another fantastic game, 19 touches and a goal assist. For Carlton, highest rated player was their highest rated player throughout the season, Harriet Cordner. Best key defender, in my opinion, in the competition. Showed it again here, was fantastic. Madeline Gurin is next with 21 touches. Dana Finn, fantastic season from Dana. 23 touches, 2 goals. Absolute huge game. Breakout star. Like, gone into the next level. Is clearly the best outside midfielder in the competition. Even plays some inside mid as well now and is absolutely starring. Next up, we got Madeline Hendry with 4 votes and 2 votes, sorry, and 1 vote goes to Aaron Fitzpatrick, who had also a fantastic season throughout most of the year. So Brisbane going to their 3rd grand final in a row. Carlton leapt up the ladder this season, made it all the way to a prelim. Massive season from them, massive improvement. Don't get ahead of yourself, Blue fans, just yet, though, because it's exactly what Port Adelaide did last year, and look what happened to them the next year. Not saying that's what's going to happen here, but just remember, Port Adelaide went flying up the ladder last year. to make a prelim and then followed it up the next year by missing finals. So there's still a lot of work to do for the Blues to get to that next level, to get to the level of Brisbane and Kangaroos. But they certainly made some massive inroads this year, so well done to them. Our tips for the week weren't terrible, let's be fair. We got them both right, so that's always a good start. We said Roos by 37, they only won by 10, so we got that a little bit off, and we basically got the two margins the wrong way around, because we said Brisbane by 7 points and they won by 35. We got them both right though, 2 of 2 for the week, 84 out of 116 on the year, and we are 7 out of 8 for the finals series so far. So we got the one game wrong, unfortunately, but other than that, the finals has gone as we expected. This is the finals MVP after 3 weeks of finals games, but using the voting system that we went through for the MVP before, top 5 rated players for each team. And for those observant people, we have a guaranteed winner. We could have a tie at the top, but Jazz Garner is guaranteed to finish on top, even if they lose and she doesn't get a vote. They guaranteed to be on top, at least equal with 20 votes, because everyone else that's within striking distance of going past Jazz Garner has already been knocked out. So that's Kate Hoare, 18 votes, Ebony Marinoff and Arone Fitzpatrick both on 15, and Madeline Gurin and Surid Taylor both on 12 have all been knocked out. The players that could tie Jazz Garner include Ash Riddell, Ali Anderson, Jade Ellinger, and Emma Kearney, all on 10 votes. Could conceivably catch Jazz Garner, but can't go past. That's basically where we're at. We'll wrap it up, the finals MVP next week, with who is actually the winner, but it will be Jazz Garner and someone else, or just Jazz Garner on her own. No surprise Jazz Garner was finals MVP last year. No surprise that we're going to have Jazz Garner as finals MVP again this year. AFLW Grand Final is this Saturday night. It's going to be kicking off 7:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time at Icon Park. It's a sellout, I believe. I just saw an hour before I went to record this that it is a sellout. And it should be a cracker. Kangaroos are overwhelming favourites. Not that surprising based on what they've done this year. But I wouldn't completely rule Brisbane out. It's going to be tough for them. They're going to absolutely have to bring their best. But they are a well-coached team, but so are the Kangaroos. So, I mean, we expect Kangaroos to win, but I'm not completely writing the Lions off. Obviously, they've played in the last 2 grand finals, these two teams. They met in the 2023 grand final. Brisbane were too strong that day, got the win. They obviously met again last year, and Kangaroos pretty much pulled the reverse, kicking 6-3, 39 to 139, winning quite comfortably, have the game pretty much in their control most of the way through. Kangaroos have won the last 3 between these two. Obviously, since that 2023 grand final, North have won all 3 games. They beat Brisbane by 44 up in Brisbane, round 1, 2024, before winning by 30 points in the grand final last year. And then come the earlier this season, they played in round 5, and the Kangaroos went up North again, and this time won by 29 points. So most things are pointing towards North being too strong at the moment. The form's obviously pretty good for both teams, but across the season is in favour of North. The history between these two teams suggests North Melbourne as well, with the last 3 going the way of the Kangaroos. Most things just point towards Kangaroos being too strong. If we're to look at numbers, Kangaroos average about 60, 70 odd possessions more than Brisbane per game. They average an extra 3 inside 50s, an extra 3 clearances. The disposal efficiency is massively different between the two teams. 68 to 61 in favour of the Kangaroos. Possession numbers massive in favour of Kangaroos. Tackle numbers pretty similar. mostly uncontested football is dominated by Kangaroos. Turnover numbers pretty similar. I think just how finding a way that Brisbane win this game is going to be about decision making in most areas. I think we saw Melbourne really put that pressure on Kangaroos by blasting them out of the gates and going full throttle. And as we said, maybe they ran out of legs late. It certainly looked that way live to me. Brisbane are a different team, though, than Melbourne. Brisbane are a team that, while running and gunning and putting that pressure on is huge, I think their decision making is what's going to be very important here for the Lions. Hitting targets at the right times when you need to hit a target, hitting a target, but making your opportunities count by creating good opportunities and finishing those opportunities. It's been a slight issue for Brisbane Lions this year. At times, they're kicking in front of goal. The last couple of weeks have been a lot better in the two finals that they've played, kicking 9-2 and 10-7. But you go right before finals, they kicked 6 goals 16 against Collingwood, 6-9 against Melbourne, 7-12 against the Bombers. So their kicking in front of goal can be costly. And in a game against Kangaroos, you cannot afford that. They absolutely have to kick straight. They absolutely have to take every single one of their opportunities. Because if they don't, up the other end, the Kangaroos will make you pay. The Kangaroos have not been great in front of goal recently either, if we're being completely honest. They're 6-10 last week, 5-12 the week before, 10-7, 9-13 and 10-11. So they have been pretty inaccurate as well over the last 5-6 games. But they can maybe afford to be a little bit more inaccurate because of the overwhelming pressure that they put you under by getting so many repeat inside 50s and by clogging up the lanes that you want to take. They don't give you good opportunities and good options out of your defensive 50. They make you kick it inboard a lot more than you probably want to. Too many times, I think, especially last week, it was noticeable to me at the ground, was Melbourne would have the ball in their back 50 and they would be kicking towards the centre square, the edge of the centre square too often, instead of going wide out. And that would be where Kangaroos would have their numbers ready to pounce. They'd sit back and they'd just make you kick it to where they want it, and that caused a lot of turnovers and repeat inside 50s. I've noticed that both times I've watched Kangaroos play this year live, the other one being when they played Sydney down in Tasmania. They just don't give you opportunities out of that defensive 50, and if you don't hit a target out of your 50, there's a very, very high chance that ball's coming straight back in over your head. So that's a massive factor for Brisbane here, is how they move the ball out of their defensive 50 and move it up the ground. They are a very good run and carry team, Brisbane, so that may play into their favour, but it's not going to be easy for them. Final thing to look at before we wrap up this episode is our tip for the match. We're going Brisbane. We're not going Brisbane. We're going Kangaroos by 26 points. We're 84 of 116 on the year. Hopefully make that 85. Kangaroos is who we're tipping. I'm hoping, amongst all hope, that it is a good game. It should be. Both teams very experienced. Both teams been on this stage for the last couple of years. It should be a good game. Hopefully it'll be a good game. We're going Kangaroos though. Obviously, best on ground, we're going Jazz Garner. We're always going to go Jazz Garner. We're massive Jazz Garner fans here at All Aussie Rules. And that is going to stay. If we were to tip someone else out of that's not her or Ash Riddell from Kangaroos to win best on ground, you'd have to say Bogue's in really good form. Always a chance. Could kick a bag. Who else could we look at? Alice O'Loughlin was good in the grand final last year. Not perhaps playing the best football last week. It's just going to be Garner or Riddell, isn't it? We're going Garner. And first goal kicker for Kangaroos, probably Bogue. but yeah, probably Bogue, I think. If we're to tip some from Brisbane, most likely to get best on ground, shout for Courtney Hodder. If Brisbane are to win, I think Courtney Hodder probably kicks 2 or 3 and has 20 touches. So best on ground, we're going Courtney. And if they were to kick first goal of the game, which they're every chance to kick first goal of the game, Dakota Davidson has a fantastic finals record. Numbers in finals is way above non-finals over the last 2 seasons. So look for a big game from Dakota. But maybe who else could kick a first goal? There's plenty of opportunities up forward for Brisbane. Maybe Taylor Smith, maybe Dakota, maybe Courtney Hodder. Could be Ruby Spark, had a good week last week, so plenty of opportunities down there. That's pretty much everything I've got for you in this episode. I want to go this way. Kangaroos, Brisbane, Saturday night. Tune in. It should be a cracker. We're going to be back next week to wrap up the grand final and also all of our AFLW awards for the season. So make sure you come back for that. That will go live on Tuesday, I believe, next week. So make sure you've hit that follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you tell your friends about it. Make sure you leave a comment down below who you think's going to win the AFLW Grand Final this week. And go check out all the social medias. Like this video. Do all of that sort of stuff. I appreciate you for being here. Go check out all the rest of the content. We've got plenty more coming over the rest of this off-season and into next season. So make sure you stick around. I'm Jay. This was the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast, and I'll catch you on the next one.